Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this Monday's Wealth Creation Show. And today I thought we could have a good look at improving your productivity and the ways to do that by getting the right flow to do that. And I was looking at a thing called the 4 Fs of flow. And I think it was quite a good topic for us to explore today in terms of identifying how to really improve your productivity. Because I think in general terms, whatever you're setting out to do, if you've not got the right productivity levels and things are kind of lagging, then you will struggle to get there and achieve your goals. So, yeah, the 4 Fs of flow. And people might be wondering, like, what's flow? What do you mean by flow? Now, for me, it's, everybody will kind of have that time when they have, when you get that momentum when you're doing something and you're really focused on a task and, you lose track of time. And I mean, it could be hours at a time. And it's usually something when you really enjoy doing something or you're really focused on doing something and you get just kind of taken in by doing that and get rid of all that outside noise. And that's basically what I mean by flow, or what we're going to talk about in achieving a flow and momentum with your productivity. I mean,
It's
it's
possibly
like,
it's possibly as well as when people are trying to avoid something.
that's true. Yeah, it could be like that. Yeah.
So they deliberately go and do something else which keeps them busy to avoid doing something which causes them pain. And they know they're meant to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely and people do that with something that they know possibly might make them feel uncomfortable or put them in that kind of position where they're feeling pain, that they will completely avoid it at all costs.
Of course they do. I mean, I've done it over the
Yeah,
years.
well,
I've
we've
done it
all done
myself. I know I've avoided stuff. Not recently, and not in the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. But I know in the very beginning, I avoided some stuff. I hated picking up the phone. This was about 30 years ago when I first started. I hated picking up the phone to people I didn't know, cold calling, stuff like that. Couldn't stand it at all. So I did everything within my power to keep myself busy somewhere else in order to
it.
avoid doing something which was extremely uncomfortable to me because I never knew how to approach it.
Yeah, and I was just going to say to you, like, you're saying that's not anything that you do now or haven't done in the past, quite a lot of years. And do you think that's because you're in a different mindset now? You're doing something that you actually enjoy and something that that you're confident
No,
at doing?
nothing to do with that at all.
Why, why, why do you,
I don't find it's going to come back to haunt me
I was just going to say, so why do you do it differently then?
because I know I just have to do it.
Hmm.
It's the classic example about. Let's look at it this way. This is how my mentors taught me.
Okay.
When you're at the seaside and you're
Yeah.
ready to go in the water, how many people run up to the water then stop and put their toe in?
And hesitate. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
most people, myself included. Same
Yeah.
with a swimming pool as well. You go to the edge of the swimming pool, you put your foot in, and you just test the water, and you go, boo, and then you walk away again. That's exactly what it is. Whereas what you should be doing, just take a run and jump in. Because once you're jumping and you're over that and you're in midair, you ain't standing back on the sideline. You're hitting that water, whether you like it or not.
There's no,
Then that's
there's
when
no
you'll feel
coming
what
back.
it's really like. And by
Yeah.
that time, you've done it.
Hmm.
The fear is over. But most people, the majority of people, I would argue 95%, here's that 95% again,
Yeah.
will actually dip their toe in. Whatever they're doing, it's got nothing really to do with water and all the rest of it. That was just an analogy about the swimming
Yeah.
pool and the cold water. And they avoid the things like the plague. It's like, oh my God, it's like I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And the will and the reality is, you know what happens out of this? Is for the next half an hour, they'll go and dipping their toe in that water, working it out in their mind, going through the pain, going through the whole rigmarole and the stress of saying, I need to go in the pool, I need to go in the pool. And eventually, half an hour later, they'll get in the pool, and guess what will happen? They'll go, I wish I'd done it sooner.
Yeah.
Avoid yourself the pain. Just do it now.
Yeah, it's like like feel the fear and do it anyway, and just get past what's holding you back, and don't overthink things, and
That's
and
the
you'll be
only
so much
way.
more.
That's the only way you'll ever get in the flow. That's the
Mhm.
only way. And I talk about this loads of times. See, when you call it the flow, I call it the zone.
The zone. Yeah, I
Once
mean,
you're in the zone, nothing can stop you. All of a sudden, every opportunity starts attracting towards you.
Mhm.
And in order to get in the zone, there's certain things you need to do beforehand and work towards that. So it's a continuous process of discipline and consistency and applying yourself every single time. There's no breaks in between, by the way. It is a discipline and a consistency approach. Once you do that, eventually you build up what I call momentum.
Mhm.
And that's how you end up in the zone. Everything you touch turns to gold.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens when you're in the zone. It's like you can't do wrong. You can't do any wrong at all. Everything that you do goes right for some reason, and everything that happens is attracted towards you, and you begin not to make any effort to do it. And it's like, how on earth did that happen? How
So
on
do
earth
you?
did that happen? That's exactly. And the reason that happens is because you've worked continuously towards that.
Yeah. And do you think, obviously, the majority of people might think, "Yo, I've been there before. Do you know, things were going right, and I was in that kind of had that momentum and things, but I'm not there anymore. How do I get back there?" Do you know? But is it easy to get back into that, or maintain that, or
What
do
they
you?
what they call it at that point in time, and most people do, is it was luck. Oh, it was just luck. I was just lucky. I was the right place, right time. You ever had that
Mhm.
before?
Yeah.
Oh, it was the right place, right time. It was the right place, right time for you. Cammy Barnes, it was the right place, right time for you. That's why Whiskey Roll's in the top 30 this weekend.
Hmm.
UK top 30. Cammy Barnes. And everybody's going, oh, I can't believe it. Can't believe it. Cammy's worked 20 years to get there.
Hmm.
20 years. And everybody thinks he's been a sensation since the semi-finals of Britain's Got Talent. It's like, what?
He's been
He's
doing
been
it a
doing
lot
this for
longer
20
than that.
years.
Yeah.
He's slogged, hard graft. He's worked at it continuously, and he'll still continue to do that. This guy has got no fear now, and he is relentless for his passion. That's
That's
why you end up getting in the top 30, and possibly next week even higher.
I think, and one thing that jumped out to me there when you were saying that is his passion. And that's a big factor in that. And do you think that's a big driver for anybody? You need to be passionate about what you're trying to do.
Well, I've had conversations with him privately, and I know his mental state, and I know his mindset, and it's quite interesting because he goes completely against that and just does it.
Hmm.
That's how he's managed to get there. You know, there was a totally different path this year that he had planned for himself. Totally different from what's happened now.
Hmm.
But he forced himself to do it. He just
And
did
it's
it.
it. Yeah. Whether he wanted to or whether he felt uncomfortable or whatever,
Yeah,
he's just done it.
just did it.
Just
Just did
do
it.
it. Basically.
He
Yeah.
could easily just sit back. The majority of people in life, everybody watching, everybody listening, you can all sit back and do nothing and just
Hmm.
let life happen to you. Why not take a chance and actually let life happen for you?
Hmm.
That's a different mindset. That's about working towards it. That's about being in the flow.
And that's really about pushing yourself outside those comfort zones continuously.
It's continuous all the time.
Hmm.
It's you just do what you want to do. You do what you want and what you don't want to do when you need to do it, irrespective.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And I'm referencing this as the flow and things because it goes with what I was talking about. I'm going to do the 4S to flow today, but you're absolutely right. Flow is really just getting yourself in that zone and getting yourself in that right mindset. And this means that, you know, you as a person feel very focused and intent and motivated on what you're trying to achieve and getting there in that whole journey to get there. And that's when we talk about, well, when I talk about to you this morning about this afternoon about the 4S, the flow. The first one's focus, and focus is so important because you could lose focus very easily. You could get sidetracked. You could get pulled away from what you're supposed to be. Obviously, there's like the shiny penny thing we've spoke about quite a lot. And how easy is it to get pulled off your line of focus and your momentum, Jim, when you're trying to achieve your goals? Because I mean, you've achieved quite a lot in your years, but I mean, you've bound to have been pulled in other directions, or had a few shiny pennies along the way that have distracted you.
Easily. I'm on
Mhm.
holiday most of the year.
Yeah.
Easily. Away to London and Paris
Hmm.
in mid-month, from the 18th to the 28th. And then away to Glastonbury. And then away to Lanzarote. And then I'm away to somewhere in Spain, my house in Spain.
But
And
at
then
this
I'm away
point,
to
you call them distractions because
and then I'm away to Las Vegas, and then I'm away to Memphis,
Yeah.
and then I'm away to Graceland, and then I'm away to Nashville, and then I'm away to Necker Island. And next year, it's like, do you think we should go? Actually, I says to Elaine, see in October, seemed to be a gap there. Do you think we should go to Monaco and Monte Carlo, and we'll have a wee bit of time in there in October? And she went, oh, I've got something on with the girls in York. I went, all right, okay, I'll just put it in for next year then.
But then
That's how you lose. That's how you get distracted. However, you know, there's only so much money you can make, and the rest is just for show. And I ain't a show person,
But
so
just got to say though,
yeah, it doesn't put me up nor down whether anybody in life is successful or unsuccessful or makes any difference to my wealth at all. I will still continue to build wealth, irrespective if I'm here or not.
that's what I was just going to say. Your ability to do these types of things and take these trips and all the rest is because you've spent all these years building up what you've been doing and being focused and achieving your successes and things. So now it's time to kind of, because I mean there's a lot of years where you didn't and sacrificed
Temporary
travel and yeah.
I got temporary ambitious to be permanently lazy.
Mhm.
Temporary ambition was over 30 years though.
Yeah.
But hey, you show me somebody else in our circle that's done the same. I don't know anybody else.
No, and that came out of many years of being really focused on your goal, and you had a few different goals throughout the years. Obviously, I think initially it's like I want to be a millionaire, I want to have a portfolio of X amount, I want to leave a legacy for my children. You had a lot of things to work towards and keep focused on,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what got you to where you are, and then giving you this ability to then spend a lot more time, like you say, traveling, seeing things, doing things, and all the while what you've already built previously is still making money without it being evolving around you. And was that your ultimate goal? I mean, I would imagine it would be. Not
Absolutely.
the ultimate goal, but
No, it was the ultimate goal.
Mhm.
It was the ultimate goal to do what I want to do when I want to do it, never worry about the money ever, and
Yeah.
look after everybody else at the same time and make sure there was a legacy put in place, and that's the ultimate goal for me.
Mhm.
So I've kind of climbed that mountain. I'm up there already, but there's lots more mountains to climb. There's lots of other things to do, and yeah, I know that is something that I continually work on all the time, and that's fine with me. Hence the reason why I've pushed myself out of my comfort zone, and I'm doing teaching now in speaker circuits. So
Yeah.
the PIN meeting, Scottish Property Podcast this week, and then the PIN meeting in Glasgow in the following month as well. So I
Mhm.
will continue to do something like that as well, and continue to teach building wealth for people. I have got no desire to sell courses, by the way, just
I
in
was just
case anybody thinks that that's the case.
just going to say,
I'm not remotely interested in going back, what I would say is backwards, selling courses.
mhm.
Because
Yeah.
backwards to me, selling courses is a job. I don't need a job. I've got no intention of ever having a job, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah, and as I was just going to clarify, obviously, what we are doing now on this platform is more. We just have a discussion about, skill set and obviously how you want to try and achieve your goals and experiences and things. That's what this is
Well,
about.
the purpose of the Wealth Creation Show is to leave information for other people to
Yeah.
benefit from, and that's fine. If somebody else has done it, then they can teach it. Put it that way. If they've done it, they can teach it. Definitely. I would say that's the case, and you would learn from that person. But also, let's be honest, it's a sales funnel for the sales division and for the lettings division of the property,
Mhm.
because some people might say, "I got information out of that. I got these people know what they're talking about. I
Yeah.
think I'll put my property for sale with them. I'll put my property to let with them. I'll get advice off of them. I'll ask them for this. I'll ask them for that. These are chargeable events. Fair enough. I'm
Yeah.
okay with that." But I'm not asking anybody to do that. It doesn't make any difference for me to people to do that. It'll not change my wealth at all, and I will still continue to build wealth. And the reason I know that is because I know how much I build wealth every single year, guaranteed, and I know how much I spend, and it's a lot less than what I'm guaranteed. So I know I will still continue to build wealth.
Yeah, and a lot of like even this and even the pin meetings thing, they're all like one-to-many opportunities for you to share experiences and things. You don't do one-to-one or anything like that, just for anybody watching that wonders.
Oh, do one-to-one if somebody changes it.
Yeah, well.
I'll pay you 25 grand a year. Okay, I'll do one-to-one. I'll do some one-to-one sessions with you for that.
Yeah.
That's fine. And then what I'll do is I'll probably just contribute that to a charity or something like that.
Yeah. But then what you would probably, I mean, hypothetically, if you would do one-to-ones or even in these one-to-manys, or do you know, just speaking from experience and things, you're going to be promoting these types of things like focus and mindset and the things that we've just initially covered there that help you achieve this kind of in the zone momentum that has got you to where you are. And I'm sure anybody else that's got any other relative level of success will realize that these are the things that you need to have in place to be able to achieve where you want to be in terms of your goals and your benchmarks and things as well. Focus is such an important thing. And that's all down to having the right mindset and having it fixed on your, I mean, like I say, benchmarks and targets and things, or whatever you've got in place to achieve your goals. The next thing what we're talking about is, well, obviously focus, but then the next thing we're going to talk about was freedom. And I thought this was quite an interesting one. And it's freedom to exercise what you feel as what you want to do in order to achieve it without being judged. And I don't mean just by other people or your peers, but by yourself as well. And this is what I thought was quite interesting, because I do this quite a lot, and I do kind of self-judge when you're doing stuff, and it holds you back quite a lot. Do you see that a lot in people? Have you seen it a lot in people over the years? You probably see it in myself, trying to perfect things and being too judgmental of yourself, and letting your own opinions and other people's as well affect how productive you are.
It's quite interesting, because over the years I used to say to myself, when actually somebody would criticise me, I would go, listen, I didn't need your criticism. I've already done that with myself already.
Yeah.
So you don't need you to compound on it. Believe it or not, that's like a lot of relationships are like that as well, where the partner will criticise the other partner. It's like, hey, they've beat themselves up enough as it is. You don't need to add to it.
Yeah.
You should be well aware of that, because you live with the person constantly. That's the sort of thing I would say. I've seen it loads and loads of times. I'm very self-critical of myself, although I've relaxed a lot more now, because it's like, do you really need to put so much pressure on yourself now? For what reason? More money? Really? How much more do you need?
Yeah, the pressure a person could put on themselves could sometimes be far more than anybody else can, because they beat themselves up so much, and let it get too much in their head.
Probably because they watch blooming Instagram too long and too much.
Yeah.
Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. They watch everybody else having these luxurious lifestyles, or the pretend luxurious lifestyles that they're having, and it's all fake. It's like they're getting on a private jet, and it's like, wait a minute, it's somebody else's jet, and they've just taken the photographed it and then walked away from it. That's all they're doing. And there's a lot of pressure on, especially young men, to actually, and young women, I would say as well, because there's a lot of pressure from different peer groups, and it's driven by the companies. It's driven by the people that can profit off of that. And they want them to do all these things. They want them to have the latest gadget. They want them to have the latest trends, because that makes money for them. They want them to be a consumer. They don't want them to be a producer. The only way you're going to set yourself free is being a producer and not a consumer.
Yeah, people in today's society, we're so influenced by social media and things that are in our hand, obviously, basically all the time, in our phones, and take people's, comments and things on Facebook and that, to, if you are putting stuff up, and if you're putting content out there and putting stuff out there, you need to learn that not everybody's going to agree with you, and you just need to kind of accept that and move on, and use yourself as a benchmark, and not someone else and what they're doing. Compete against yourself.
Here's the key here. I will only listen and take someone else's advice in a field which they are more of an expert than me.
and somewhere where it's something constructive as well, and not just, you know, a slating comment.
I'm not really necessarily in line with that belief if it's
Okay.
constructive, because I'm not really sure if constructive ends up being destructive sometimes.
Yeah,
I'm just giving you constructive criticism feedback. It's like, that's no helping.
you're still kind of tearing the person down a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, especially social media is a classic example of this. Is it's unwelcomed opinions. It's interesting because Dexys Midnight Runners, Kevin Rowland actually did it on Glastonbury's Park stage last year. He did a wee song with one of his friends, and it was all about unwelcomed opinions. It's like, and Kevin Rowland and the whole song and all the rest of the way it was put together, his friend was giving him advice, and he was going, "Yeah, but I didn't ask for your opinion here." and that's classic. These are the things that knock you off guard. These are the things that knock you off focus. These are the things that knock you out of your freedom. Because it was actually Tony Robbins that actually said this: is where focus goes, energy flows.
Yeah.
So whatever you focus on the most, and you can see what happens when I'm saying all these different things about all these external factors that give you their opinion, unwelcomed and unwanted opinions sometimes, and they tell you what you should be doing. It's like, well, wait a minute, and then they're diverting your energy and your focus. So they divert your focus, and then your energy diverts as well. This is why I was relentless in sticking to my track record. Now I did get off track a wee bit, because then when I took over the stage, say at Century 21, and took up the franchises in 2006, and I took them up, I was tied into them for 5 years, guaranteed. So really, that's where my focus ended up going, and I probably paid a hefty price for doing that. But hey, I'm not complaining. I'm exactly where I am because all the things that have happened have maybe not been successful in my past, and also the things that have been successful, and I'm pretty happy where I am. Believe me, definitely.
That's quite interesting, and leads me to quite a good question. I think that you could have been a lot further in your portfolio.
I don't think so.
Well, but then a lot of people maybe hold on to things and look in hindsight, hindsight, I should have done this, and I should have done this, and I should have done that, or I could have done this. And that's quite a detrimental thing to keep thinking about, because that'll hold you back as well. It's not
if I hadn't have failed in other things, I wouldn't have the knowledge and expertise to negotiate to buy the 60 properties I bought in the last 3 years. I don't think I would have had the knowledge and expertise to do that.
So it was probably
also get them at a premium price at a huge discount.
Yeah.
I don't think that would have been. And this is a classic example. There was somebody on TikTok actually arguing about this recently. I think it was one of your posts, and the guy was going on and about how houses are negotiating, and how you kind of get a house for below the home report value, and because everybody else is outbidding them. And it's like, well, it's funny because I managed to do that, and yet he says, but you're in the industry. It's like, it's got nothing to do with in the industry, because that means every single estate agent that was in the industry would be successful at what I do anyway.
And they're not.
And they're not. So it's nothing to do with industry. It's the knowledge and expertise I've picked up in other fields. It have actually benefited me, particularly in this industry. That's all. It's nothing to do with the fact that I'm in this industry. It's the knowledge, expertise, and wisdom I've got from other people. It's actually led me to this point.
I was just going to say, and I could tell that, and I hope everybody else maybe listening, when you talk about things and you're always referencing, and so, when I used to work with so-and-so, or when I used to had a mentor so-and-so, and they taught me this, and you're always drawn from past experiences and people that you've learned from.
Of course you do, because who are you going to learn from when you pop out? It's like, I'm born. Yeah. It's like, I've got no knowledge and information in my head. It doesn't suddenly appear from somewhere. You're molded and shaped by the people you allow to influence you over the years.
And that's why you need to choose the right people. And people might not be quite sure on how to do that. And I think checking.
I think internally, if you listen, it's a bit corny, but if you listen to your heart, you listen to your beliefs and what you're aligned with, and you follow that path, that will lead you to success.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you go against your beliefs and you go against what you know is right, that's when you're not in alignment with what you should be. and therefore things like focus goes out of focus. Things like, you know, the freedom that you talked about then is lost as a result of that. I mean, you're free from the day that the fact you're in alignment with everything you believe in.
Yeah.
You literally set yourself free straight away. You might not be loaded. You might not have tons of money, but you're free. You're free mentally.
I was just going to say, your mind, you'll be contented within your own mind because you're not going against, like you say, possibly what you believe or what you feel's right, just because you think maybe you're going to make a buck doing it.
This is possibly why some people go and, like Nelson Mandela, how did you survive for 30 years in this prison? Or wherever it, you know, on that island he was on. How did you survive all that time? He went, well, I actually went away somewhere else in my mind sometimes on different places, and I just imagined I was there. You literally can trick your mind into doing that. And you actually believe that and you feel that. And your mind doesn't know any different because it's what you put in is what you get out. Garbage in, garbage out. But you put good stuff in, good stuff out.
I mean, talking about Nelson Mandela, he was probably in his mindset able to put himself in a place like that because he knew the reason he was there is because obviously what he was fighting for was what he believed in.
Passion, yeah, that comes as well. Passion gives you focus, remember. Passion's a really good one. That gives you focus as well. Definitely passion. You're passionate about what you do. You see that in a lot of people are successful in whatever they're doing, and they're very, very passionate about it. Here's a classic example. 2 baristas could run 2 coffee shops right next door to each other. One could be extremely successful and one could be extremely unsuccessful or just moderate, getting by. How is that possible? A lot is down to focus. A lot is down to passion as well that comes with it. They love what they do. They're in alignment with all the things they do. Everybody gets that vibe from them when they walk in the door. The other one is like, you're just here for a job because it's something to do. It's like, I really feel great about coming in your shop, about speaking to you personally. No. So why would I bother?
Yeah, I feel that if somebody's got a really deeply ingrained interest or passion for something, they'll always apply themselves so much more. And then that's when you'll find yourself, if you are really passionate about something, you'll find yourself working on something for hours at a time and lost totally track of time. And that's how you fall into that kind of flow and zone because you've got that passion and that interest in something.
Passion. I like to exceed people's expectations. I like to deliver what I've promised. I like to see people become successful. That's my passion. That's what I love doing, and that's what I love seeing, and that's what I love help other people doing. And that's probably why, and that's probably what keeps me going all the time. That's why it doesn't matter. You know when you've got it for whatever you're doing. Here is the clue. This will tell you straight away if you love what you do so much, will you do it for nothing? Absolutely. Absolutely. I'd still do it. I just love it. I just love what I do.
And I think there'll be quite a low number of people that would be able to answer that question the same.
Guess something like 95%. It's the 95% group. The 5% obviously love what they do, and that's why they're successful in it. You don't know who that 5% group is, but there's 5% group. There's 5% people out there that don't even know they're in the 5% group yet. They don't even understand that. They don't even understand the mentality behind that because they're stony broke. But they're in the 5% group out of their actions about what they do and their focus and everything they do to get that, and their energy behind them, the energy and the passion behind them. It drives that engine overall, and the discipline, it keeps them going when motivation disappears.
Yeah, that focus and then that freedom as well, like we said, and do you know when we talk about the freedom, it was overcoming that the judgment and the scrutiny from other people and outside sources and things. And we did kind of touch on feedback, and that's what I'm going to move on to next is feedback as the next F of the 4 F's of flow. And feedback is everything to do with, whether it's a big task or a small task or whatever, the information that you receive to allow you to be able to possibly build on something, improve on something, or even just realize that you're actually doing something right. because you've got that feedback to say this works really good, we're really happy with this service, or do you know, feedback that might say this didn't really work for us, and then you could look at that to see whether maybe you could change things to make it more productive.
There's a cliche out there, and it's like feedback is the breakfast of champions.
Okay.
And it is true, whether it's good or bad. It really is something. It helps you improve if you need to, or yeah, I'm doing the right thing, or reaffirm that you're doing the right thing. And feedback is a really good thing, and it should be welcomed. Sometimes it's no welcome because it's really just criticism. It's like the feedback isn't really feedback. It's like, oh, I think I'll just tell you it's like this, and it's like, right, you're only pissing and moaning. That's it. You're not actually doing anything other than doing that, and you're not actually improving anything. There's no feedback. There's no suggestion how to improve. Here's a classic example. I saw a post the other night about Richard Branson, about how he started Virgin Airlines, Virgin Atlantic. And it was literally, yeah, okay, it was fairly accurate. And I felt compelled to actually correct the guy and say, well, it wasn't British Airways that let him down. It was actually American Airlines, because he was at the airport in Miami and he was waiting to fly over to Beef Island to get home at Necker on the boat. And that's who let him down. British Airways don't operate internally in America. And I thought, I'm not even going to say anything to this guy because everybody's loving the story and it's brilliant. It's inspiring. And absolutely. So why would I want to rain on somebody's parade? There's some people that do that.
Well, there would be a lot of people that would love to jump in.
Woe betide if you do a spelling mistake wrong. See the amount of people, just because in Tennessee, right, in Nashville, they spell whiskey with an E-Y on the end. Yeah. And in Scotland, we have a Y on the end. And see the amount of people that really got bent out of shape when Cammy was trying to, Whiskey Row, which is his song, was actually trying to promote it. And people were coming, oh, yeah, that's not how you spell whiskey. What? Do you know what to say anything about the song? It's like, the spelling mistake brigade is a nightmare on Facebook. It's like, is that all you've got to add to everything? Are you the person that sits in the cheap seats while everybody else is fighting out in the arena and just criticises everybody for doing it wrong? Is that all you do?
And this is something that I was going to say, and that kind of ties in nicely with what I was, and I think it's a really important thing, and I'm sure you'll agree with feedback. And there's a lot of feedback that people, especially if you're putting yourself out there on platforms and in front of people, you will get a lot of feedback. And a lot of people are so keen to jump on that feedback and implement it. But really, I mean, don't change what you're doing unless you're completely convinced and you prove to yourself what people are advising you maybe you're doing wrong or should do different is going to be beneficial to what you're doing.
Yeah. He was an interesting one. He was an interesting one to take that a wee bit further about the guy about Virgin Airlines and Virgin Atlantic and how it appeared. So I was looking at some of the comments, and it was like, and some people were jumping in. A very few. Everybody's going, oh, Virgin Atlantic, brilliant service, fantastic. All the rest of it, bells and whistles, couldn't do any better. Best airline in the world. A few came in and said, one guy came in actually, well, maybe two or three. And I felt compelled to respond a bit and says, okay, if you tell me exactly what happened, I might be able to feed that back to the powers that be. You know who that is. At some point in the future to let them improve. So the guy went on about how it was, and I went, but so when was this? And he went, oh, it was last year. Eventually, I got it out of him. It was last year. Somebody actually said it was COVID times. Oh, it was COVID times. He couldn't pay his staff. And it's like, and my response to this was another one. It's like, okay, it was horrible to his staff because he couldn't pay them in COVID. Was that not an exception to the rule? It's like nobody had any money. Everybody ran out. Is that no a forgiveness moment? And this person was totally draconian. Oh well, he tried to get loans off of people, and it's like he put his home up as collateral, and then she still felt compelled to say something. I went, British Airways got a secret loan from the UK government, and actually told them not to loan money to Virgin Atlantic at the time. It was all done, and yet we bailed British Airways out, but we wouldn't help Virgin Atlantic. So he put his own house up. But he's got loads of houses in the world. He's not got loads of houses. Virgin has loads of houses. He doesn't have loads of houses. He maybe owns the Virgin stock, but they're not all his. But they just didn't understand. So it says,
Yeah.
look, you're living on a different planet. Just think what you want to think, and that's the end of it. I've realised now not to bother about people like that. But anyway, let's come back to the person that felt compelled to feed this back. So
Yeah.
I was going, so what was wrong? And he went on and on about different things, and it was all petty things. And I says, okay, that last year, it says, right, okay. So it says, if you give me the boarding ticket, right, of where it was and what plane it was, because it seemed isolated to one plane, one incident, I might be able to pass that on, so at least they can actually I didn't have my boarding.
Well, surely you'd have it in emails
Right.
or something.
Well, no, his dad booked it.
Right, okay.
Says, so what you're asking is at one isolated incident when you had a bad experience. I said, did you complain? No, he didn't. You had one experience, one isolated incident, you had a bad experience, and you feel the whole of Virgin Atlantic is a failure as a result of it.
No.
It says, unless you have some sort of evidence as to what that was so they could investigate it, how on earth do you expect them to see if that's a problem right across the fleet?
Yeah, and that you see that time and time again. People will have something to complain
Petty.
about, but if you actually brought it to them and says, "Look, this is what I experienced.
Yeah.
No, how did this happen? Should it be like this?"
Well, you know my experience.
Yeah.
When I said to Richard, it's like I was on, I was on Virgin Cruises just before this, just before I
Yeah.
came here, Richard, just before I met you. I was going, oh, what is actually what he said to me first was he says, what could we improve? I'm like, whoa. Because I was saying, oh, it's a fantastic experience. I tell you, way above everybody else because I was on Caribbean the year before. And it's a way above everybody else. And he says, but what can we improve? If you were going to do something, what would you improve on? And I'm like, wow, okay. Straight away, straight into feedback.
Mhm.
That's what he wanted. He just wanted feedback. And then he wrote these, he goes, what to do is give me a shout when we're sitting, because we were out cycling. Give me a shout when we're sitting in the, in the beach house. Yeah, that was the beach house that we're at. And he says, give me a shout in the beach house when we're sitting. And I actually went to see him and he was writing down loads and loads of notes about other things at the same time when he was watching the football on the telly or the rugby. And then I told him, he took down a couple of notes and he says, that's brilliant. I'm going to feed that back to the team and see what they say. Now, he feeds a lot of stuff back to the team, but do you see how he gets all that feedback? He's quite happy to entertain people and just say, what things would you improve on? Not what things do you think we failed on? What things do you think we can improve on?
Mhm.
There's a
Yeah.
real good way to look for
That's a
feedback.
real spin on, yeah.
What can we improve on? And I would say every single organization, yourself included, should
Yep.
be going out to landlords and people and other people as well, and not just saying how fantastic we are. What can we improve on? If there was one thing out of the experience you had, which you said to me was fantastic, if there's one thing we could improve on, what would that be?
Mhm. Yeah.
That is how you become world class.
Yeah,
at
running a
what you do.
business or providing a service or even managing staff and things as well. You need feedback. You need to see how things can be improved for the better. But I mean, improvements
I
and
think a
things.
lot of businesses don't.
No, I know.
I think the majority don't, and they're not really particularly bothered because it's like it's only just a small business, a cottage industry to them. They don't want to. They don't want to push. They don't want to climb a mountain. They don't want to do anything else. They just want a job.
Hmm.
They just want to be on their own. They just want to have their own business. They want to have their own freedom. They want to take holidays when they want to take. They don't want to answer to a boss. They want to go out and do things when they want to go out and do things. They want to. If they don't want to work, they don't work. That's why they run their small business. And it is small because of that. Because they treat it as a hobby. And I always used to get told by my mentors, it's like, Jim, if you treat this opportunity as a hobby, you'll make a hobby income out of it.
Hmm.
And I knew that because I saw other people in the same business as me were meteorically successful, financially free holidays, free free everything by the
Yeah.
organization they worked with, was basically as rewards as leadership for the organization. And they had the same opportunity as me. And I wasn't a patch near them at all. And that's the things I learned from that organization. That's the things I learned from a mentor.
And you obviously aspire to be as good, if not better, than these people at some time in the future.
They just did it more than me.
Hmm.
That's all it was. They just made more phone calls than me. They made more connections than me. They possibly put more time in. They put more productive time in it than me. I put loads of time in it, but I was thinking about how painful it's going to be phoning people and how putting it off all day. And then thinking, oh, I better not phone them now. I'll phone them tomorrow. They'll be in a better mood.
Well, do you know that? Do you know? I think without even knowing this, because I've got my notes about what we spoke about today, and I was talking about these 4 Fs for achieving this flow and momentum and things, and it's obviously the focus, the freedom, the feedback, and then I come to this thing and it's the 4% challenge, and I'm like, what is this? Never heard of this. And you've actually kind of just outlined it a wee bit in your conversation there, because when I read about it, it's about obviously keeping that level of, challenging yourself and the level of challenge quite high in whatever you're doing, and about keeping that, really your enthusiasm up and things. But it's really about trying to get yourself and improving your craft and getting yourself to a level of people that are more successful than you, or sometimes even exceeding that. And it's obviously the 4% challenge and just pushing yourself that little bit extra. And
here's it in its basic fundamental form.
Yeah.
You hear it from a lot of people. The 5 a.m. club.
Yeah.
And then people take it to the extreme of like, you're doing the 5 a.m. club. I'm going to do the 4 a.m. club.
I'm going to do the 4 a.m. club, yeah.
Somebody goes, I'm going to do the 3 a.m. club this year. Right. Whether that gets you a result or no is a different story. But that's what they're doing to themselves. That's what and it's kind of true. It's what I always say, and I have said it before, and I'll say it again. When you're ill, if you do just a small bit of work or a wee bit of thinking more than someone else, you'll be a bit more successful than them.
Mm-hmm.
Work on Christmas Day. Hello, me.
Yeah.
Take the breaks for what I wanted, but the times that everybody's in their bed and not doing anything, it's like, I'm not going to hang about all day waiting for people to get up. I'm just going to do some work before they get up.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's Christmas Day. Who cares? It's just another day. Oh, but it's with your family. I have got my family 365 days of the year, 24 hours a day. What difference does an extra day on Christmas Day make? But
yeah,
but that and that sounds, people sound, oh my God, that's terrible. And it's like, that's no, but you're putting your own beliefs on that. I says to Ian just earlier on, it says, the great thing about where I am right now is like, I don't need to wait for the weekend to do anything. I could just do it during the week.
Yeah, and it's like we're conditioned to these kind of, the weekdays, the weekend, the holidays, the time. It's like society is totally conditioned to, this is what you should do at this time.
Absolutely.
And
if you don't play by those rules because you're in a better position financially, and you don't need to rely on that system, then you could do anything you ever want to do, and you have that freedom to do it. Definitely.
Yeah, and identifying where you could do just that little bit extra in a time where everybody else is not as active or not, involved in their own success because they're taking these times off that are kind of just commercial holidays, basically. That's where that's this 4% thing. You're going to push yourself just that wee bit further than everybody else.
Yeah, well, famously, I used to take my laptop on holiday. I actually still do, but I just didn't tell anybody anymore. They'll not be listening to this anyway.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I famously used to take my laptop all the time, and I used to work when I was on holiday when I was lying on the beach. Now, don't get me wrong, I know very successful people, fund managers, and all the rest of it, who do that as well. They're sitting on Necker, and it's like, Jamie, why are you on your laptop? Because he's still working.
Yeah.
So I immediately saw people at that level and that financial. They weren't really financial. Well, Jamie's financially free now. He's back working at Amazon. He's head of Amazon again. For some reason, I don't know why. It just didn't go according to plan, maybe. But he's back, one of the heads of Amazon again. It'll be interesting to hear his story. Maybe he's at Necker this year again. But that's the sort of thing. And Kevin as well. Kevin was working away. And when they saw my WhatsApp about the out of office message saying, I'm out of office and I'm no back in work, so if I didn't contact you, I don't contact you. And they're like, how could you do that? It's like, that's called financial freedom, Kevin. something you've obviously not got. You maybe run a £400 million fund, a $400 million fund, and make quite a lot of money, but you obviously have to keep running on that wheel.
There's still a lot that revolves around them.
You have to keep running on that wheel. That's essentially where I was myself. You build your own hamster wheel where you're continually running it all the time, and it's like, my God, I can't get off anymore. To that point where a lot of people do that. I know somebody that's actually just started their business, and they've had one coffee shop, they've expanded into the next door now, and then they're going, oh, I'm going to keep that, and I'm going to have a roastery as well. And it's like, oh my God, can you not just get that up and running, be successful, rather than actually just jump on another thing, and then another thing, and then there's another thing. And by the time you know it, that person's just literally built a job jail for themselves, where they've got to be there all the time.
Yeah, and I think if you're trying to build something that's successful, especially like a business and things, if you can't take a week or two out without everything falling apart without you, then you've got a problem. You've got something.
That's why it's so important to charge the right prices. This is where a lot of estate agents, for example, get it wrong in the beginning. They go down and they basically drop their drawers, and or anybody that's listening that doesn't understand that, they drop their trousers, and they basically give them it for next to nothing. Their price. Oh, I could sell your house for £500, because £500 to them in their hand is a lot of money, £500. But they don't realise it's like, wait a minute, that's to pay for your car, that's to pay for your phone, that's to pay for your electricity, that's to pay for your gas, your utilities, that's to pay for your rates, that's to pay for your, possibly if you've got somebody helping you, a VA, virtual assistant, that's pay for them. It's like, if you only sell one of them a month, you're out of business. But they start off like that, and then after maybe about a year or 2 years, they wonder why they're so overwhelmed. It's like, oh, I'm getting all this business. It's like,
but I'm just turning
but
wheels.
I'm overwhelmed. I can't get out of it. I'm on a hamster wheel for the rest of my life, and I can't get off, because as soon as I stop going round and running round, my income stops.
Whereas if you charge the right price, you would have the right team around you.
You could employ people to do that for you. And when you go on holiday, someone else is there that's competent to look after the business as well at the same time. That is why you charge the right prices. You don't charge rock bottom just because you're working on your own now. You need to charge the right prices to build up a fund in order to employ someone to help you once you get bigger as you grow. That's what a lot of them forget. They think it's all about market share. They think it's all about volume. It's like, you are leading yourself into disaster.
Yeah, and like you say, you end up on that hamster wheel, and that's when you get obviously burnout, and we've seen it happen to people over the years, and these are all different factors that lead to that. But yeah, and the 4% thing is quite good to push yourself a wee bit extra than everybody else, but always try and make sure that you're not pushing yourself too far.
Yeah, you could look. The 4% rule actually encourages you to talk about challenging other people, and I say, yeah, that's all right if you can challenge it. But I'm not really sure about that. I think personally, it's kind of like the Cliff Shuffle. If you look at the Cliff Shuffle, so Cliff, farmer, running about his fields all the time in his tacty boots and his muddy boots, and he was running all day after his sheep and his cattle and his herds and everything, and he thought, I'm going to enter the marathon in Australia. This was about 30 years ago, and then it was one of these ultras over about 5 or 6 days for 300 miles. Cliff ended up beating everybody, and what happened was they went, how on earth did you beat everybody and then break the record by 6 hours? How is that possible? And he went, I just kept going all the time. He says, so what was it like having your breaks and were you getting up early in the morning? He went, what, were you allowed to sleep?
Did he just keep going?
I never realised you were allowed to sleep. He just kept shuffling.
Slow and steady wins the race. Yeah.
He didn't realise he was just relentless. They were all laughing at him though, because everybody was in their Nike and the Reeboks and everything. He's in his boots and his old jeans and just running about like this, just dressed like this.
Normal day, yeah.
We're going for a jog. It's like for 6 days or whatever it is. You can look up the story, but it's remarkable. And this is why I say, you talk about the 4% challenge. It's like the person you should be challenging the most is just yourself and just doing better than what you did the day before. This is why I have metrics on my watch. This is why I have scales that actually monitor my body mass index, my bone density, and all the rest of it. This is why I have a blood pressure monitor, which monitors my intake and my outtake for my heart valves, making sure they work properly, all the rest of it. And that's why I make sure that I measure these metrics all the time, to make sure that I am improving. I was at the weekend, I was with Colin doing diving.
Mm-hmm.
And I says, Colin, my VO2 sitting at 45. And now 45 is actually the top 5% almost out of my age group for fitness.
Yeah.
And he went, oh, I've dropped a wee bit and all the rest of it. And I went, oh, right, okay. And he says, I've dropped and all. And I went, okay, so how are you doing? He went, oh, I'm doing to 59. Sorry? 59? He went, aye, my watch is telling me off, and says, what's your monitor? And he's got like 55 to 65. That is an elite athlete, by the way.
Right.
Where he is, an elite athlete, sort of Olympian. And it's because he did weightlifting and everything like that. He's doing CrossFit and everything. It's but does that bother me? No, because that's for him individually, and his metrics are telling him for what he's doing, how he's doing it, and what his body's like and his build. That's exactly right for him. Whereas same with mine, with my build and my fridge. I mean, I'm only 12 stone. Body mass index is 23.9, which is really good for my age group. Health-wise, I'm probably in the fitness category of a 50-year-old rather than what I'm coming up for a 60. So that's what I want to improve on. I'm not caring what Colin is. It's like, oh my God, Colin's
not
that.
comparing yourself.
How am I ever gonna reach that? That's just broke thinking. That just makes it worse. Because what are you going to do about it? All you've done is put your body into stress and then cause yourself a problem, and then thought about it and given actual energy to something that you can't actually compete with.
Yeah.
And something that you'll never get to because it's just no you. That's what we do on Instagram.
Yeah.
We'll look at everybody else and think, why am I not like that?
It happens. I mean, it's in an industry and things as well. Like, obviously, we work in a state and letting agency, and I remember hearing very early on, it's like, don't compare yourself to other agents in the area, and oh, they're doing this, and I should be doing this, and concentrate on what you're doing and what you could do to improve yourself and continually improve on your own, rather than comparing yourself to someone else.
Here's what happens. Whatever industry, whatever it is you're in, here's a classic example where you are right now. Are you competing against other people? If the answer to that is yes, then you're more than likely getting the same results as them. So you're competing for them with the pie, with the portion of the pie they've got of that industry. If the industry is worth 3 billion, for example, and they've got 1 billion, and if you compete against them, you're only competing against 1 billion. You're not competing against the other 2 billion that's out there, because the 1 billion is attracted to them for what they do. So if you're doing what they do, you'll be competing for that 1 billion market. Yeah. You're just trying to get off of them the scraps that they've got left. That's what you're trying to do. What about the other 2 billion that's over here?
So the way to remedy that,
nobody's got that yet. This is why we do differently. This is why personal property tours. This is why personal walkthroughs. This is why we do wealth creation shows. Other people don't do that. Other people don't do that. I'm not after anybody else's pie or anybody else's market. I'm after my own market. I have built my own stage. Andy Harrington said it.
Yeah.
Why would I want to go on somebody else's stage if I can build my own?
Yeah, thinking outside the box and being different, and really that's when the true example of being different is so much better than being the same as everyone else. Because like you say, you're only going to get the share of the same pie. You're different. You're appealing to a completely different audience, a wider spectrum of people. Yeah,
of course. And they've got knowledge and expertise that you've not got, and you've got knowledge and expertise that they've not got. So why would you attract the same audience? They might not be as above board. I've seen that before with some estate agents. They are no longer here, by the way, because of that. Some actually prosecuted. So if you're competing against that person, then you're actually playing by their rules. I don't want to be a follower. I want to be a leader. I don't want to follow somebody else's path. I want to lead. I want to blaze my own trail.
Yeah, and it's so easy to look at what other people are doing, and like you say, Instagram's such a good example of that. Look at what other people are doing, and oh, that looks so successful, and they're doing so well at that. Let's just replicate what they're doing. That's not always the answer. In fact, it's definitely not the answer.
I mean, when I was in triathlon, right, and I was doing triathlon, and I wasn't competing against anybody when I was doing it. I went in for the races, but it was really myself to see how well I was doing. But I remember it was Sarah. I ran past Sarah, and it's like Sarah was going, "Well done, Jim," and it's like, God, Sarah, it's like when I get to your age, I wanted to be just like you.
Mhm.
Sarah was 85-year-old, and she was still doing triathlon.
Yeah, that's
And I'm
amazing.
50, and she's 35 years my senior, and she's still belting it out of the park.
Yeah.
And it's like, God, and she's like gobsmacked. I'm saying, I just want to be just like you.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's like, because 35 years' time, I don't even know if I'll be able to do that. I will. I know that because I'm on track for that. But at that point, I didn't know.
Hmm.
Because at that point, I drank coffee, caffeine. I smoked cigars. I ate a carnivorous diet. I wasn't a plant-based person, and it's completely different now. So I could literally do everything possible. The dilemma today is: do I do my tempo run, or do I do my strength and conditioning training? After doing 2 dives yesterday over on the West Coast, and after doing strength and conditioning and a run on the same day on the Friday, which would kind of killed me a wee bit. So I've got to decide, especially after,
Yeah.
because if you've got nitrogen in your body still, because you have after diving, then you can do yourself some serious damage. You overexert yourself the next day. So I have to decide. That's the dilemma. So it's nothing to do with what anybody else is doing. It's what's best for me.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some implications with diving and things. You need to be quite careful, like you say, nitrogen in your body and things. High levels of that could be quite.
Yeah, I tell you
Yeah.
what, I was brilliant yesterday. There's the dive signal. Okay, I was absolutely unbelievable yesterday. I just floated like I was in space all the way through that dive, the 2 dives. I was like, I was really, I was proud of myself actually. But I tell you what, Colin was shining the torch and someone going, come over here, look. And I'm like, what's he going on about? And I looked under this rock and it was like, oh, I kid you not. Flipping heck, Hellboy himself had been reincarnated. This was a crab with claws that size.
Really?
It was
Was
bigger
that?
than my head.
That looked fine. No.
I've got video up. I'll put it up this afternoon.
You
It's
should,
like, my
that meant-
God. It's like it was huge. This was 25 meters down, and this thing was under a rock. And I thought, I am not going to look under there anymore. I've just had visions of the deep and this eel coming out and biting your head off. It's like, oh my God, I'm not going near that. But I tell you what, I managed to get a shot at it. And I kid you not, and it's no exaggeration. It was, oh my, it must have been, it might have been the water, and some things are bigger when they go underwater, but it can't be that. It was literally it was probably about a foot long, its claw.
That's amazing.
Probably
I'd like to see that.
tiny wee body underneath, but I didn't even look underneath to see if I could find that. But these are the sort of things. That's why it's a whole different world down there. This is what I love about diving. It's completely different. Takes you away from it.
Well, I picked up on there as well, but you were saying obviously yesterday you're diving, you were able to, you got your buoyancy, you're floating, whatever, right. And you said the other week when you and Tony were there, you didn't. Remember, you sunk like a stone and didn't.
And that was why, because what Colin had done was like, just give him more weights. Right. So when I went over the edge, I hadn't got my buoyancy right. So I just went down like a stone. And it was like, I was trying to equalize, going, trying to get my ears to pop at the same time. And I was panicking. And then by the time I had pressed the BCD to inflate it inside the jacket, then it inflated me. But the thing is, I started slowing down. You know how something goes down, you started slowing down. But the thing is, then it went, okay, let's go up. Whoa. And I was like going up far too fast. And I was like, dump more the air, and then I was coming back down like a stone again. That's why you've got to make sure you do things in small steps and not big mass huge leaps. That's why you've got problems with people with the stock market. Next minute stock market's dropped 30%, next minute it's up 5%, next minute it's down 20%, next minute it's up 40%. And it's like, this is why long-term investing's fantastic, because over the period of time, when you equalize all that out and you've not gone through all the trauma of it because you've invested steadily over these years, you're getting a 10% return every year. Compounding wealth.
Yeah.
That's baseless since the S&P 500 has actually started. It's literally 10% every single year. If you're just taking a no-brainer and just put your money in there, through most people say a Vanguard low-cost stock purchase thing for the S&P 500, and it keeps the admin costs to a minimal, it's like you could build serious wealth over the long term. Anybody can do that. It's how bored are they willing to be?
Yeah,
that's the key.
And you'll see, and that's the problem, I think, with a lot of people in society today, especially younger generations, to things. They want this instant success and riches and all this, and it's like that's the wrong attitude to have.
I need to do it quickly. It's like, no, you don't. You just need to build wealth over a period of time.
Yeah.
How many people do you know at 50 and 60-year-olds that are financially free and never need to worry about money ever again? Count on one hand.
Yeah, there's not a lot. Yeah,
I could just stop working and do nothing and sit on a beach for the rest of their life, having drinks served to them and pina coladas. I've counted on one hand. Well, I could maybe know a lot more now with the people I've met.
Yeah.
But before that,
yeah.
So that's key, and let's we've got past the so
I'm going to
4 Ps of that. The key out of this, and this is the thing I would say the most. We've talked about things like feedback, we've talked about being in the flow, we've talked about focus, we've talked about freedom, and how that could all come through. But the key out of this, unless you take action, it's worth jack shit.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we done a show a couple of weeks ago, and it was a call to action, and I think we really reinforced that. It's like, don't spend too much time going over things and talking about things. Actually, just put them into action, and that is a really important thing. But you're absolutely right, Jim. And thanks for all your insights today and your stories. I think it's always good to take a subject and compare it to what actually happens in real life. And you've always got some good analogies and things. So thanks for that. But definitely in the zone where your focus, your freedom, get that feedback, use the feedback properly. And that 4% challenge, always use those opportunities to get that wee bit better, or that little bit better. Sorry, there's not a wee coming in. That little bit better than your competition. And thanks everyone for joining in. Yeah, thanks, Joanna. Lead by example. You're absolutely right. And we'll leave it there today. Jim and I will be back next Monday as usual at 12:30 for the Wealth Creation Show. And thanks, guys, for tuning in. You'll catch us on the rerun as well.
Bye now.
Thanks, Jim. Bye.